United Nations aid agency that services Gaza has been begging for fuel, warning its operations would cease without it. UNRWA says it did receive some fuel today, but it fell far short of what it needs. The agency also warned that 70% of people in Gaza are without clean drinking water. Juliette Touma is the Director of Communications for UNRWA. She joins us now live from Jordan. Good to have you with us. So your agency has been the main coordinator of humanitarian aid into Gaza since it was placed under siege. I understand that for the first time since October 7th, you have got some fuel from Israel. Just how much are we talking and what does it mean?
Yeah, thank you. Very, very little. In fact, it's the equivalent to half a truck of fuel. And the use of that fuel is conditional for UNRWA. It can only use it to go and pick up the aid trucks that are coming from Egypt. We cannot use it for anything else, not the hospitals, not other medical facilities, not our own cars to deliver assistance to people in need. So it's very conditional and it's only for a specific purpose and it's really, really tiny.
So a tiny amount of fuel and very strict restrictions from Israel as to what you can use it for. Has Israel given you any other indication that you'll get more fuel in the coming days?
Look, it's been 5 very long weeks for the communities in Gaza, but it's also been 5 very long weeks for my colleagues on the ground, the humanitarians, the unsung heroes on the front lines who every single day face multiple challenges to respond to the huge needs of the communities, and fuel and the restrictions and the siege and the ban of the delivery of fuel has made our life at UNRWA and the humanitarian operation, by and large, very, very difficult, if not impossible.
And Juliette, there are over 2 million people in Gaza. How many have access to clean drinking water right now? And for those that don't have it, what are they having to resort to?
As of tonight, 70% of people in the Gaza Strip will not have access to clean water because of the fuel shortages. 70%. And so many people are resorting to dangerous sources of water, including in some cases well water or other not clean water. Some colleagues have told us that they've seen people going to the sea, using the water from the sea. So 70% will tonight in Gaza not have drinking water.
We have heard from Israel claiming that Hamas is stockpiling fuel, which is intended for civilians. What's your response to that?
Look, what I do know is the agency I work with, UNRWA, the largest humanitarian agency in Gaza, does not have fuel to operate, to provide assistance to 800,000 people who have come to seek protection and safety in our shelters across the Gaza Strip. We don't have it. UNRWA, the United Nations, does not have it.
So how many aid trucks are needed right now just to provide the basic essentials for those 800,000 people plus?
Before the war started, Gaza used to get every single day 500 trucks. Now, in the past 3 weeks, since trucks started coming in, we got the equivalent of 2 days of trucks in 3 weeks. And now the humanitarian needs on the ground in Gaza for people are huge because of the war and the forced displacement and the collective punishment. So we need many more trucks. What is being sent is good, but it's by far not enough, especially as the war continues and as the siege becomes far more tight.
And Juliette, since Israel announced its operations at Al-Shifa Hospital, we've seen more people on foot walking south. Speak to us about the sort of facilities, the shelters that you have in the south of Gaza right now and the overcrowding.
Yes, since the 4th of November, we've seen more and more people leaving the northern parts of Gaza, including Gaza City. Our teams were there on the receiving end. They reported that people were arriving on foot, mostly those who could afford it got on donkey carts. They were dehydrated, they were exhausted. And there's also another element that we rarely speak to, and that's the trauma and the shock. And for many people, especially the elderly, this is reliving the trauma of 1948. For the younger generation, it's living the traumas of their ancestors, including their fathers, their mothers, their grandparents. And that is an element that we should not underestimate for the Palestinian communities in the Gaza Strip and elsewhere.
And Juliette, you spoke about the unsung heroes, the aid workers operating under such dire conditions in Gaza. We know that the UN has lost more aid workers in this conflict than any other war in such a short amount of time, in less than 5 weeks. Now over 101 people killed from the UN. How are your colleagues dealing with this and coping in Gaza? What are they telling you?
In fact, it's 103 colleagues. Just before I came to speak to you, I got the latest from our colleagues, and this is the worst update I get every single day, is the number of colleagues killed. And one has to remind themselves that these are not numbers or statistics. These are our colleagues and our friends. These are family members. These are mothers and fathers. They were doctors. They were teachers. They were the backbone of this operation, some of them for decades. And it is very, very sad for the colleagues who continue to be on the front lines in Gaza, this huge loss and almost inability to grieve in dignity for their colleagues who they lost, who were killed over the past 5 weeks in Gaza.
Juliette Touma, UNRWA Director of Communications, we're sorry for what you and your team are dealing with there in Gaza as well. We appreciate your time and thank you for all the work you guys are doing.